in for the morning drip. Hoping this gets actually posted in the morning because we've been pretty late lately. It is Wednesday, September 8th. We have just yet a couple days before the big game against Washington. Yes, it is still a big game. Certainly there will be a lot of people out there that try to diminish what it is based off of what happened to Washington. There's a couple things that I want to address today. I want to look at the fan base because here's the thing. The more you get into the season, the more that you start to get some fan interaction and things, and you get the pulse of some people, the vocal minority. So you can probably assume since last week we also touched on a fan base thing. I'm going to touch on it again today, regardless. But this isn't necessarily like last week where I'm saying, hey fans, you should do this, or like yesterday even when I said you should be happy. This is more of a weird narrative that has been going around for a while, and I got a comment on yesterday's episode where someone said, and it got a like, and it's insane to me, that Harbaugh has been a failure at Michigan. This is just categorically untrue. Has he met expectations that others had for him before he arrived? No, he has not. Because obviously, the thought when he got hired was there was going to be lots of wins against Ohio State, Big Ten championships, college football playoffs. He's been close, but that Ohio State game has kept him out of getting to Indianapolis and beyond. Twice they've been close, and it hasn't going into the game against Ohio State, only to lose one really close in double overtime, and then the other being a blowout loss. But nonetheless, that doesn't mean he has been a failure. Harbaugh has the third best. I think that still stands. Going into the season, I don't know if Wisconsin's loss to Penn State changes this or not, because it was really quite razor thin, the margins were. But Harbaugh has the third best winning percentage in the Big Ten. So it's kind of funny how that ends up getting lost on some. Yes, I've been seeing a lot of comments on social media the last couple of days about Michigan hasn't had winning seasons under Harbaugh. That's factually incorrect. Michigan has had all but one season has been a winning season. The only one that hasn't been was last year's. And guess who also didn't have winning seasons last year? Paul Chryst of Wisconsin, or James Franklin of Penn State, who generally are looked at as being very, very good coaches in the conference. But Harbaugh's winning percentage is higher than everybody except for Paul Chryst and Ryan Day. Of course, Ryan Day has only lost a handful of games in Columbus. He hasn't lost a Big Ten game yet. So there's just a lot that that's also because Ohio State has been way up here for a very, very, very long time. If you want to say Harbaugh hasn't beaten Ohio State, that's fair. But let's not act like Michigan coaches before him were just beating Ohio State regularly and Harbaugh came and just hasn't been able to do it. Or also, let's not act like there are other coaches in the Big Ten that are just taking down Ohio State with regularity. It's not happening. This is not a unique Harbaugh problem, but for some reason this gets pinned on him as if it's as if he's just one that can't do it. But you look over there and the next guy's just doing it with regularity. Who did Ohio State lose to last year? Alabama in the national championship game. Who did Ohio State lose to the year before? Clemson in the college football playoff. The year before that, it was, let's see, we were going back to what, 2018? I don't even remember who they lost to in 2018. But, oh yeah, they lost to, was that the year they lost to Purdue? Yes, that was the year they lost to Purdue. So it's not like Ohio State, that was the last time they lost a Big Ten game, was 2018. The year before that, they lost one Big Ten game. That was against Iowa. So you see what I'm saying? Ohio State, and this is just recent, right? But when it comes to the Michigan coaches, people like to say, well, Brady Hoke, he did it. Yeah, he did it in a year that Ohio State was 6-7, and the game was still close. Obviously, Rich Rod never did it. Lloyd Carr hadn't done it in the last 4 years of his tenure. And once Jim Tressel came, things kind of flipped around on its head. I'm just saying we have to be realistic when it comes to a lot of things when it comes to Michigan football. I've been talking about this for a very long time on the Locked On Wolverines podcast. Michigan, realistically, is an 8-4, 9-3, 10-2 program, right? You're going to oscillate between those numbers. You're probably going to be 9-3 more often than not in the regular season, maybe 10-2, but that's what it's been for a very long time. I'm talking decades, right? For all of this, we're Michigan, we win championships. I mean, it's been 24 years since the last national championship. It's been since 2005, or 2004 rather, since the last Big Ten championship. It has been a while, right? You're not jumping right back into where the team was when Tom Brady departed the program, right? So Jim Harbaugh has not been a failure. If anything, he's at least gotten Michigan back to expectation of, I know a lot of people will say it's mediocrity, and for Michigan, it certainly is. For a lot of other programs, what Michigan gets to do on a yearly basis, what Michigan is able to do on a yearly basis is something they aspire to be, right? There was what came out, was it from Athlon Sports over the offseason of other Big Ten coaches talking about Michigan anonymously, and that's one of the things that one of the coaches said. It's like we look at Michigan as not being a very good program, but honestly, like, this is what most programs want to be. What they would take exactly what Michigan has. Does it need to be better? It absolutely does. It has not met expectations. I am not saying that it has, but what you also have to recognize that maybe the expectations, instead of being up here, need to be just down here a little bit more, right? I know you don't want that. You want the Ohio State. You want to be able to be in the college football playoff. You want all of these things, and it's just easier said than done. Can you get there? Certainly it's possible. We'll see what happens here with this new coaching staff. I know that there's some that say, well, it's still Harbaugh, but this retooling of the coaching staff, I talked to Joel Klatt during the Big Ten Media Days, and he pointed out examples of when it didn't work and when it did work, right? So it works for Notre Dame, for instance, but it didn't work for Bob Stoops at Oklahoma or Mac Brown at Texas. There are times where it works and there's times where it doesn't work. Only time will tell. And I do want to add to this kind of all feeds into my point from yesterday about Western and why you should be happy about it. Some people took that as I think you should be ecstatic. You should be screaming screaming go blue from the rooftops. And I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you saw what you needed to see in this last week. Now let's see if we can see that again against a tougher opponent. The schedule sets up very interestingly in the sense that you had the MAC opponent. Now you've got a tougher test against Washington. Then you got another MAC opponent. Maybe a slightly tougher than expected Rutgers team comes to Ann Arbor to open the Big Ten. Then you've got Wisconsin, which is the big test. Michigan hasn't won in Madison since 2001. Likely a pretty easy game against Nebraska, but they'll certainly come out swinging. Get to come home, play Northwestern, so you get a little bit of a reprieve there before you face what looks to be an improved Michigan State. One game, but we'll see. Then you get Indiana, Penn State, Maryland, Ohio State. So it's an interesting hard game, easier game, hard game, easier game type flow. And it gives you that opportunity to kind of work through some issues here and there. So it's interesting. We'll see. We're already at way above the time I wanted to spend on this morning drip because it takes forever to get them up. It takes usually a couple hours after I record it before it's rendered and ready to go and upload. So we'll cut it here. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy your Wednesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow on Thursday.